everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life After Kids with Doctors Brooke and Lynn. I'm Dr. Brooke.
And I'm Dr. Lynn.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
joining
being
us,
here.
ladies. I might shed a tear during this conversation.
Yeah, because we're talking about one of the common reasons why we're all here and why you're more than likely here listening. It's preparing for our kids to leave home. And in this case, it's that time of year where kids are heading off to college.
Yep, getting close.
Getting close.
It's probably like first or second week of July by the time this airs, and maybe we could have aired this a little sooner. Maybe we will. But you should be starting to, if not already, like full board planning and prepping and ordering all the things for your child to go to college in the fall.
Yes. And to be clear, that's not what we're talking about, because there's lots of people out there that will help you with that, like the sheets and the, where to buy the dorm room fridge and all of that. We're not talking about that type of preparing. We're talking about you, sister, and what you need to do to prepare emotionally for those kids to walk out that door.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And now you just sprung that on me because I thought I was telling them about the tips for their children. We're going to have a conversation about both.
Let's talk about the real stuff first.
Yes, absolutely.
And then
we don't need a lot of time. I just want to give a couple little tips that were helpful for me.
Probably because when we were, we plan out our topics months in advance. And so when we were discussing it, I don't really have a lot to add there for that, because when Jordan went to college, we were so much younger, and, he, I think, did a lot of that on his own, but or with his mom. I'm technically Jordan's stepmom, but but I know you've recently gone through that and about to go through it again.
Yes,
really,
back to back.
This is aired
launches.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the hard stuff first, and then we'll kind of finish up with some of the funner stuff. But
I don't know if anything of it's necessarily fun, but
maybe so
anyway,
maybe we'll find some lightness in it. But so I think when kids leave, would you agree that there's those stages of grief when we're going through anything like a loss of any type?
Yes.
So starting with denial, you sort of deny. I know that I've been there. So I was questioning, I'm like, really, is denial a part of your kids? Because if you get sick or something, you can kind of see how you would bury your head in the sand and then ignore it for a little while.
Yes.
But it's true, because I know I've been there. I'm like, she's 10th grade. I'm going to move with her. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be so bad. You're kind of denying the scope of the problem, basically. And then you move into anger. I haven't reached that yet. You'll have to speak to your piece. Bargaining, a little bit of depression, until you finally come around to acceptance. And I think there's a sixth stage, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit later. Yeah. And it's a much more hopeful place. But acceptance is also, a goal to get to that.
Absolutely.
And then if we can move even further out of that, that's a place where we're thriving. So
yes.
Yeah. Talk about that, the stages you go through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I don't know if I'm trying to think if I hit every one of those stages. I wrote a blog post about this when I was going through it with Anthony. Very, very similar to this. The wording might be a little different from what you had jotted down there, but I would encourage you to go back to that, because even when I reread it for myself, just processing through it, it was really helpful. So you could find that on our blog, which is on our website, lifeafterkids.com. But for me, definitely, I went through a season and it didn't hit. And I probably started about now, which is not July, but now for us as we're recording is April, because, graduation is about a month away and it starts to hit you, but also you're still denying. And I maybe even went through denial through most of senior year. I think you do that more leading up. And then once they graduate, it really starts to hit you. And I think I did go through some anger. I went through some yelling and taking it out on my husband.
I was going to say, would it be misdirected anger, like taking it out on your kid, even that they're leaving home and they're out with their friends and they're not coming home, or just finding little things and getting angry.
Nitpick over. Yeah. And definitely misdirected at I feel like you treat the people you love the most sometimes the worst, because you feel safe to do that. And that they're going to love you anyway. They're not going to turn their back. we shouldn't do that. That's not an excuse. Nobody should be a punching bag, but definitely some misdirected anger, I would say, at my husband. And I honestly, like I will say, just being real here, I didn't know that it was going to hit me as hard and as bad as it did. And I had a couple times even during the summer when it was really starting to hit me that I mean, we were out to dinner one night and I remember this vividly. And we were at the lake and we were all there and my father-in-law was there from Florida and Anthony's girlfriend was with us. And it was right shortly before Anthony was leaving and I thought he was staying at the lake for a couple more days and he sprung it that he was going back home to see his friends and to start packing and to spend some time with his girlfriend. And which is totally normal and should happen. But I was beside myself because in my mind, I had prepped for a couple more days of,
Wow.
and you know, it was just in that moment that I was like, why doesn't he want to be with us? Why doesn't he want to be with me? Why is he trying to, and I was so wrapped around the axle that I literally I tried to go to the bathroom. It was a one-person bathroom and it was locked. I literally went out into the parking lot and I was pacing the parking lot because I was full on crying. And I knew it was absurd. Like I knew that it shouldn't be that, but also I couldn't stop the way I was feeling. And I didn't want to ruin everyone's dinner. I probably did to an extent just because they knew I was upset when
Yeah.
I got up and left. But at least I had just a couple of minutes to collect myself,
Reset
gain some
and
composure and go back. And so, but my point is like, it really, it can hit you at weird times. So be prepared for that. And it's okay to really feel those feelings. Like it's not abnormal for you to really feel like the cells are knocked out of you.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is that it is definitely a process and it will come in at different times and be
Yep.
unexpected, but having some awareness that you'll probably go through those phases. I don't know if it helps, but maybe. Maybe it's just like it's normal to feel angry. I'm feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I'm experiencing a loss and that's normal. Maybe
Yeah.
that will help tone that anger or take the edge off the anger a little bit, having that.
Yeah, I think even if just the first step is always being aware. And it might not make you less angry, but it might keep you from taking it out on somebody that you
Yeah.
shouldn't, or it might make you comfortable with sitting it and finding a way to
Or
diffuse it in a
sharing
healthy
that,
way.
like, I'm feeling super angry that you're
Yeah.
leaving and I
Yes.
don't know how to express it
Right.
other than to take it out on you not picking up your socks and
Right.
I'm going through something and please be patient with me and I'll be patient with you. Like
Yeah.
that's just a really adult conversation to have with your kid.
Yes. And
There's
that's a
no
healthy thing to teach them to
so
talk about
healthy,
those
right?
feelings.
In that way, you're not putting it on them.
Right.
You're not saying,
It's your
please stay
fault.
with me.
Right.
It's all your fault. You're just saying, look,
This is how I'm feeling.
this is how I'm feeling. And just be patient with me and I'll be patient with you. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's normal, when we talk about anger and what happened with me at that meal, and I want to just touch on this because this is important. I think it's important. I to some extent, I felt a lot of anger around and almost a little bit of jealousy as like, why does he want to spend so much time with his girlfriend? Why is he going out with his friends the night before he's leaving? Why isn't he with us? And that made me angry. And taking a step back now, like they should, they're leaving their friends. If you can, put yourself, I say this in anything in life, like until you've walked in the other person's shoes, and we all have, we've gone to college, right? Or if you can put yourself in the other person's shoes, he's leaving his friends, he's leaving his girlfriend, he's not going to see them. The girlfriend was sooner, but like his friends, not till maybe Christmas. And I guess the same, we saw him more than that, but I mean, that is a very normal and healthy thing for a
He's
kid to
having to
want to
share
do.
his time around. It's not just the family
Oh,
that
yeah, I
he's
mean, he has other
thinking of.
things, and I'm
Yep.
grateful that he did have good friends that he wanted to see and that
Right.
they were all spending time together,
That's
so
good.
we have to give them grace to do that too. I think it's easy to some extent to feel like you want all of the summertime to be spent with you, and it's just not going to happen. So allow space for that.
Yeah.
Allow them to go and do their
Really
thing
good.
too.
That's really good. What do you think about this? So, like in speaking of a loss, an upcoming loss and preparing, I think that people who know those things are happening, like children in this case, our children, they have a way of preparing us. Maybe it's even subconscious, but they have a way of preparing us for their departure. Almost like, I know I'm going to be leaving, so I'm going to withdraw a little bit.
That's probably really fair. And it might be prepping them too, to some extent, especially if you have a really close relationship with your kid. And not all of us do, not that we have bad relationships, but we're not all, some of us are tighter than others. But if you are really close to them, it might not just be them preparing you, but them preparing themselves because it's a huge change for them.
It's great. It's
You
a great
know, it's a
point.
big change for them going too. So if they start to take a couple steps back to prepare themselves for where they're headed, which is being away from you, you know? So we have to allow space for that too. We have to allow that space for them to be more independent and do their own thing.
I think it's good to know that that's a normal part of it though, ahead of going into it, because you can sense that withdrawal. And that's the first step of that letting go,
Yeah.
where you just want to hold on
Yes.
tighter.
It's not going to stop them from leaving.
It's not going to stop them from leaving. In fact, it could backfire
Yeah.
and make it worse for you, make them just want to
Absolutely.
be out of the house all the
Yes.
time in the summer before they leave.
Right.
So you have to soften into that a little bit. I think you have to see it as a normal part of what's happening. I think you have to see it as almost a lean in and just make the best of what you can. Now, that being said, you still have rules in your house. I'm not suggesting throw it all away. Oh, you're
No,
never going to see your
absolutely
kid, but
not. There's in moderation.
know that that's happening. Instead of grabbing on tighter, just see it as a piece of the process.
It is a piece of the process, and a lot hold space for that. Hold space for your own feelings, but don't guilt trip them. I think is the
Yeah.
biggest thing is don't guilt trip them into because then when you try to hold on tighter, they're going to push back more
Yes.
typically, you
Yeah.
know?
And talking about you though, bringing it
Yep.
back to
Yep.
you and you as a mom, the best ways for you to prepare is to start to work on yourself, to know that you're going to have a void in your life with your kids moving out, especially if this is your last one. And you're going to need to find some new senses of purpose,
Yeah.
new, and I say that plural because it can be more than one, but
Yep.
at least one, so that you can be emotionally fulfilled and be thriving and lit up on the inside, because that's very attractive. That's not the only reason you would do it. But if it's just as a result to having your kids want to come back and your kids wanting to spend time with you, if they see you flourishing,
Yeah.
they're going to want to be around you.
Yeah.
They're going to be attracted to that. And you're happier on the inside.
Yep.
They're happy for you.
Yep.
You're happy for them.
Yep.
And, you know, it's still going to be a sad period. It's sounding like all puppies and rainbows, and it's not. It's going to be very difficult.
Yep.
But starting now to start to give some thought, even initial thoughts on like, well, how do I want to spend my time? How do I want my days to go? What emotions do I want to bring in? Who do I want to make their lives better? How do I want to do that? That is a great place to divert your time and your energy and your focus instead of worrying about your child, thinking about if I prepared them enough, because at some point that's going to be just left up to faith and you know, and your child, and
Absolutely.
trust in your child.
Absolutely. And by the way, just going back real quick to the denial piece, I remember this too. And this is part of, I would encourage you to feel your feelings. That's what I did. That's how I played the game. I just was, even when we were in Portugal, which was in July, this time now,
Right.
actually a week later. And I think you even asked me how you're feeling, or friends of mine asked how you're feeling. I was like, I'm not thinking about it. I called it compartmentalizing. I'm compartmentalizing.
You're
I'm
trying to enjoy
enjoying
your
this
summer.
piece. I'm not thinking about it
Which
because
there's
he's still
something to be
here.
said about
There
that.
is, but the problem was then I didn't even think about it. I made myself stay right here and all the fun I was having. And then when it came, I was like, it just hit me like a
Yeah.
Mack truck.
I don't know
So
how
I
you
don't
could have
know.
done
There's
it any
like I
differently,
don't know. I think it
you
was
know?
I think it was still going to be
Self-protecting.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and Anthony was the first, so maybe it probably we'll see what happens next year with Andrew. I imagine the last. I hear from other moms that I know in this phase of life that the first and the last are the hardest,
Yeah.
right? Um, so but it's just yeah, it's just
I'm going to have both of those in 1 year.
I know. I was just thinking that. So I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to really clear my schedule for you.
I laugh,
But
but it's not funny.
it's it is quite something. And I think that to your point, the self-care, yes, but you know, if you're listening to this and thinking about this for the first time and it's beginning of July and your child's leaving and like this is something I'm hoping moms are listening to that also don't have one leaving in the fall, that it's coming up so you can do that. Like you need to be working. You should be very,
Fill your
very
time with
proactive about that.
something meaningful to you.
Yes, but to your
Start
point,
early and repeat often.
yes, but I am so grateful that I had life after kids because it gave me a place to direct my energy and my thoughts so that it wasn't constantly on like, oh my gosh, she's leaving. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to have a healthy space to go to and some sort of productivity, something for yourself,
Right.
so
No, there's
that
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
it's really
And
necessary.
to your point where, or to going back to what I said, when your kids see you flourishing, they're attracted to that. And, he's called you, you guys have seen him a whole lot. He came home and surprised you guys before Thanksgiving, even, I think, you've seen him come back.
Yes.
Right. But on the opposite side, if they see you floundering, they might withdraw. And unfortunately, that's the time when you need them the most.
Mhm.
But kids are younger and haven't fully matured, and they might not want to see that. That might be hard for them, especially dealing with everything they're going through.
Yep.
So the best win-win for everybody to come back together to have happy times with the family is for you to find something. And I've known you a long time, and I know how well you've done. I don't think I know, because I don't talk to you on the phone every single day.
Yeah.
And I probably should have checked in more. So this is a note: check in on your friends, right?
Yeah.
And
If you're not in that place and
start
your
checking
friends
in
are,
on them
check in on them
now.
regularly.
Ask them now. And then when August comes, and so whenever they leave,
Yep.
make sure you're sending them a text.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Get them on
That's
the phone.
important
Yeah.
for most
So
women.
it
Yeah.
is.
And we had a friend.
But what I was
Go,
sorry,
sorry.
what I was
Yeah,
gonna
you had
say
something
is
else.
I shudder to think, without life after kids,
What I would
how
be
you would
doing.
have handled
It
that.
would be tough. Yeah.
A lot tougher.
It would
Sure.
really have been tough because, and even with life after kids, I hit a rocky spot for a month or two, which I really do think is very normal, that
Yeah.
first month or two.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, we have a friend whose son was going to college like 2 years ago. And she said, like, shortly before he was leaving, they were driving somewhere, and we talk about it hitting you at the weirdest times that you can't control, just like grief does with any loss.
Mhm.
And they were at a red light. Her son was sitting next to her in the seat, and she just started sobbing, crying uncontrollably. And her son was like, "Oh my gosh,
What
I'm
what's
so
wrong?
sorry." I think he knew that it was
Oh,
tied around, and she was crying. And she said, I stopped and looked at him and said, "I want you to know," this makes me want to cry. "I am crying because I love you so much and you're so special to me. And because I love you so much, it's going to be really hard for me to see you leave. But I also don't want you to feel any guilt around that or bad feelings or think I'm upset about it, because this is what I've been working
oh,
for like
yeah.
18, 19 years, is to launch you. And I'm so happy for you. And I don't want you to see my emotions and my crying and make that you feel bad in any way, shape, or form, because all you should be just
Yeah.
so excited. And I can't wait to launch you. And I am so happy for you. But my mama's heart is
Yeah.
hurting."
Oh,
And that is such a,
there's a quote about that. It's like the the sad truth of being a mom is that, if we are successful, we put ourselves out of work, basically.
yes, it's true. We've heard
Somebody
women
said it.
say that in our
That quote
community.
is much more
Yeah.
eloquently said in its original
Yeah.
format, but yeah.
But the point to that is, I don't necessarily think that, you want to protect your kid. You don't want your kids to feel bad, but it's okay for them to see you upset. But you also be like, I feel like the way she handled that was just perfect, because that's an opportunity to share how you're feeling and to let them know, like, you shouldn't feel
Yeah.
any guilt. I'm so happy for you to share that and to be honest and to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact of life that you can have more than one emotion at the
Yeah,
same time, and that's the tricky part of this transition. Is it's a mixture of feelings. It's a
100%.
bundle of different things,
Yes.
coupled with hormones, and
Oh yeah, throw that in
why
and
we're
forget it.
here, is to help you untangle all of
Right.
that, right?
Right.
And we are human, and we're not going to all have good days. So even if you have a purpose, and you've done all the things, and you're taking care of yourself healthy, like we look to you, Dr. Brooke, like you still had rough days, and you're not going to
Well,
be able to hide it from them at all times, just like our friend, right?
let me say something to that point, because that summer I've talked to you guys before about anxiety and different emotional things that I dealt with, and then I keep it in check with eating healthy and moving my body. That summer, I was moving my body, but I never let my eating go really bad. But for me, I was living my best life. Like, we came off of Portugal and I was eating gluten and some things I don't normally dabble
That
in.
you
And I'm not saying
that
everyone should
your
be gluten
body
free just
reacts
for what
to.
I
Yeah,
need.
you have a
And that
severe
definitely did
allergy.
not help me at all, because when he left and I had to really dial it back for a little bit again just to get. So,
Yeah.
mental note, in this season as they're getting ready to launch, this is really is the time to make sure that you're moving your body every day, eat a little more cleanly, do the things that you can do to, once again, you're not changing the circumstance. So how can you handle the circumstance in the best way
Yeah.
possible?
Input impacts output,
Yeah, and
right?
I
So if
think
you're
that you were
putting,
getting at that when you said self-care, because these are all
yeah,
forms of
that's for
self-care,
sure
right?
part of it. I was just gonna say into, that example that you gave, where our friend was crying, that having that discussion, maybe even mid senior year, that is something like, this is going to be a big transition, like before the summer, because I think the summer is sort of the peak of it all, and
Mhm.
the emotions kind of
There's
coming,
so
many, and
feelings.
good and highs and lows
Yes.
there. And just kind of going into that so that you can have a good, fun, memorable summer, just asking for extra patience
Yep.
as a mom, and just
Yep.
saying, allow me some grace, and I'll give
Mhm.
you some leniency, and if you can do the same, because
Yep.
this is a big transition for both of us. And
Right.
I've been preparing, 18, 19 years for
Yep.
this. And I think to that end, I think your kid hopefully will be very receptive of that. I think the only way this could go wrong is if you don't vocalize that in a healthy way, and instead you take it out in a way where
A guilt trip.
you act rejected, you give them the silent treatment, you give them the guilt trip, maybe you're passive aggressive, or you play the martyr. Oh my gosh, I've been, like you could have, and probably you were thinking that, right? I know I would have been in that moment when you were at the dinner with Anthony and you're like, we have taken care of him our whole life. Look
Yeah,
at all
all
the
the things are
sacrifices
going through
I've
me.
made for him, and he's going to go spend the week, right? But instead, you like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in his shoes. So you have to just,
I
because unfortunately that's going to backfire, right?
Right.
So it's normal to feel those things.
Yes.
It's normal to want to be passive aggressive. It's normal
Yes.
to want to play the martyr.
Absolutely.
But unless you want your kids, to really to have that stronger, more adult relationship with them, you have to exercise some restraint.
Yes, and I would say to that end, and what I did in the restaurant, like, those feelings are gonna come up. But if you can know that they're gonna come up, and just when they do come up, remove yourself from the situation or get yourself in a place where you can catch your breath before you act on what you're thinking or feeling. Because if the words had come out of my mouth that I was thinking, it would not have been good. And even though me getting up and pacing the parking lot was probably not good, in fairness to me, they thought I was in the bathroom. They didn't see that it was locked. So maybe I was in the bathroom a little longer than I should have been, but at least that was a far better scenario than me just, how could, like, I wanted you to stay at home. Do you know what I mean? I had another time during the summer, I think it was before that, where so couple this with Anthony also getting this is a long story, but he was a little sick, and if you
You
remember,
were
I was
working
worried
as
about
a
that
doctor.
because I was trying to get like tests, like all of this stuff. And we were out, I think, having dinner. So I was with Ken. I don't know. The kids were definitely in the area, if not sitting right with us. And I could just feel it coming. It just hit me, and I just excused myself. I went into my bedroom and shut the door and just literally got down on my knees on the floor and had a good 10-minute cry, like a hard body shaking cry. And sometimes you need that. I felt so much better after that. And that doesn't make me like weak or
No,
like making too big or being
I'm
dramatic.
just
Like
sitting here
sometimes you
going
need to
like, thank you
release
for
that emotion.
sharing this stuff, because like this is the real stuff of life.
Yeah.
And the more you know things like this going into it, and we know this from just being in this space, that not enough women are talking
Yeah.
about this and talking about the story and the best ways to get through it. So
Yeah, and I think Ken even may have popped in and like wanted to, and and everybody needs things differently, and it could have been for me, and just not just me, but just if the time had been different. But in that moment, I was like, I just need some time.
read the room.
I didn't want anyone to like coddle me or hug me or say it's going to be okay. I just needed to let that all out. And then it was okay. It's not like I came out of the room, was like, "Hey, let's have a party." But then I was okay. I
Yeah,
was able
you had
to
to release.
carry on, but I could
It was
feel
the
it coming.
release.
Yeah. And rather than, I wasn't going to do that necessarily in front. I was able, wasn't like in the car with them at a red light. I was able to go and feel my feelings. So
Yeah, I think a certain amount of respect for women who would want to protect that from their kid, right? Like that's a
Right.
private moment. You don't need, that's going to affect them. So
Yeah,
do
it's
that
gonna
in
make things a
private.
little weird if you can, if it's
Yeah.
possible to do that.
Sometimes you can't. And if you can't, because you can't always control it, like it
Yes.
happened with our friend, then just
Right.
speak into them
Right.
and that happiness.
Um,
Okay. That's the deep stuff. Let's talk about the,
Not yet. I have a couple other
oh,
things, a couple
okay.
other things. We don't even need, we've spent so much time, we might not even get to the frivolous stuff, but I just need to say two more things that I think are important. I hope they're going to be useful for you. Another thing that came up for me in the summer, we were out on the porch one night and it was just me and my middle son. And we were having a chat and it was close to when we were leaving. And I was telling him that I really wanted him to come to help us move Anthony in. I thought it would be good for him to see the process because he was going to be a senior, see the school, what have you. And he was like, no, I'm not going. And I was like, I was upset. I was like, what do you mean you're not going? That's your brother. Like he's leaving home. Why wouldn't you go? He started sobbing, uncontrollably crying, and was like, "You don't understand, mom. I can't even wrap my brain around like our whole family life is changing. He's going to be gone. I can't be there. I can't say goodbye to him on that campus. I just need to stay here and just do my thing." And anyway, I could get into more of the conversation, but my point to telling you that is, and I've done posts about this, it's easy to get wrapped up in your own feelings and emotions and miss what's happening with the other people in your home. So leave
Mhm.
some space because if you're hurting and there's siblings that are staying home, they likely are hurting too, and they might not share that with you. So it might be a good idea to just touch base with them because
That's right.
everybody's
'Cause
family's
they're
life is
going through the
changing. It's not
same
just yours.
stages of grief as
Yeah.
you are, maybe at a different
Everybody's
degree.
family life. Now, some of them might be going, woohoo, he's gone. I get my own room or I get, whatever. But so everyone's handling it differently. So there's that. And then I just wanted to just speak to just a little bit about like the drop off, just to
Mm.
prep anyone that hasn't done it before. Just briefly, are you okay with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just bracing for
Um,
impact.
but everybody told me that the drop off in driving the drive home was going to be awful. The drive home was not bad for me. And I had a 5-hour drive. It wasn't like a quick, easy thing. We made the mistake, and I don't think we could have done it differently because Anthony's on a sports team, so we needed to be there for like 3 or 4 days. But I would just tell you if you have the option, for me, being there for an extended period for drop off was torture. It would have been far better to be there 1, maybe 2
Get in,
nights
get out.
and get in and get out because all that in my
The
mind
build-up.
going, I think it's going to be great.
The
We're going to have
build-up.
time. Let me just tell you how it played out for us. He moved in, he was doing things with all the people, which he should have been. We barely saw him. And it was literally just 3 days to stew and think about, I have to drive home and leave him here. It was not, I did not like that at all.
No.
I would recommend, just from my own standpoint anyway, that if maybe get in and get out. They told us while we were there that last night as we were leaving, and nobody's ever said this, so take it for what it's worth. I still not sure I agree, but I'm just going to throw it out there, not to let them come home.
I hear that a
If
lot.
they're having a hard
Colleges do
time
that.
and they want to come home for a weekend or even for like the first fall break, make them stay there because we thinking about ourselves, a lot of the kids are struggling
Struggling
too.
too. Mhm.
Anthony didn't have that problem. He was ready, but some kids are having a hard time. And the college counselor advisors there were saying, just plan on them being here until winter break or
I
holiday
think it's
break.
the school of thought where like if they don't figure it out on their own, find friends, put themselves out there, do something to
Yeah.
make a life. And if they're gonna run home, they're never gonna
Experience. Now
get that.
everyone's different there. So I'm not sure how I feel. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it
But my
depends on your
last thing is,
tolerance.
yes, the drive home. I've shared this story with you. The drive home was not bad. I walked in the door and I felt like I got hit by a ton of bricks
Mm.
just walking in and knowing that he wasn't there. So I will just like, for me, I grabbed my dog and took like a 2-hour nap. And little Bristol, she never like, she's a love bug, but I cannot like snuggle on top of her. She knew that I was hurting. She literally let me lay down on top of her and I fell asleep right on. I mean, I don't even know how the thing was breathing. And we laid there like that for probably an hour and a half. But I listened to like, I knew I walked in and I knew I was emotionally spent and exhausted and I just went right to the couch and went to sleep. I didn't unpack. I didn't do anything. I just went to
Mm.
sleep. And then I got up and I was like, all right, Brooke, this is going to be tough. Like you've got to. So I poured a magnesium salt bath. I put some lavender essential oil, some cedar wood just to calm myself down, just kind of get ready for sleep. And anyway, this is kind of funny. I can't believe I'm going to share this because it's also very embarrassing, but I just to make you feel better if you're in this place, feel better if you're in this place. I get out of the. Do you remember the story? I get out of the bathtub, and I was like miserable. And I was going to get dressed, and I saw it, put on like my pajamas because it was later in the night. And Anthony's high school shirt was there, and it was hanging there. And I picked it up, and it still smelled like him. And I was like, I'm wearing this shirt to bed. I put the shirt on, and it smelled like him. I'm like, I'm gonna sleep in this shirt. And then I was like, I think gave myself a little smack in the face, and I was like, pull it together, Brooke. This is getting out of control. You're not his girlfriend. It's borderline weird. You're gonna see him in a couple months. Take the shirt off, pull the head out of your butt. You're gonna be okay. I was like, I did pull myself back from the brink enough to realize that was really like weird. No offense to anyone that did sleep in the shirt. That's okay. But for me, I took the shirt off. I wear it now, but I washed it since. But it is that night and going to bed that first night knowing he wasn't in his room was
Hard.
really, really, really hard. But the good news is,
You're here.
yeah,
Still
and
standing.
we're all doing great. And by the way, and it is true, I think you'll probably hear this from other people. As hard as that is, it's almost like you blink your eye and they are coming home for break. It flies.
Yeah, I think you just kind of the first couple of days are hard, and then it
Yeah.
just gets to be automatic, and
Yeah. It was
you
even
go on,
month
and
or
life
2
goes on.
months.
Yeah.
And that's again where if you can prepare yourself and have something that you're gonna dive into and
Yes.
do, you've got to keep yourself
So
busy.
thanks for bringing us back to that, because
Yeah.
at the start of this, we talked about the 5 stages of grief. And remember, I said there's a 6th stage
Yes.
that's so very hopeful,
Yeah.
and that is creation. So you can stay in acceptance because acceptance is great. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, this is a part of life. But how about you channel that into that loss, that extra time, that more energy you have, the more focus that you are able to now put into something, into creating something new
Yeah.
for yourself. And that's what we do, right? We
I love
help
it.
inspire you to think about what that is for you,
Yeah.
whether that would be a hobby like we just talked about on a recent episode, whether that is starting a new endeavor, a business with your best friend,
There's so
what,
many
there's so many
opportunities.
possibilities. That's just a couple of ends on the spectrum, but for what can you create now? How
Yes.
can you, make meaning in a new way?
Right.
That's exciting and will bring joy to your life and will impact the world
Right.
in a way that
It's
you
a good
weren't
time to
previously
focus on
thinking
yourself.
about. It is. It's
Absolutely. It
wonderful.
really is. It can be a beautiful time if you allow it. Not that it makes that it's still hard because if we didn't love them that much, it wouldn't hurt that bad, but we
Mhm.
do. Um, Shoot, I was gonna say one more thing as you were one other thing that just is a really simple practical because I do hear from a lot of moms like, why don't they want to text? Why they don't want to keep in touch? I can't.
Mhm.
First of all, bite the bullet if you're because sorry, Renee, but my mom will do this to me. She'll complain about me not texting, but she doesn't text me. It's like if
Either.
I get
Yep.
caught up in my day, it's okay for you to pick up
Yep.
the phone and text them. You don't have to wait for the text.
Mhm.
But something that we do that's helped us and maybe it's only because I have boys, maybe it's easy, I don't know why, but anyway, and I think we started this even before Anthony left, is we started a family group text chain. It's called the Stillies. So that's kind of a
That's
good way to
great.
engage everyone, and maybe they're not going to want to be quick to necessarily just talk to mom or dad, but if you're both on and the siblings, it makes it a little
Love that.
easier to connect. So that's just a little piece of advice. Last thing, are you ready to wrap? Do you have anything else?
I'm interested in hearing from you. You've been through this the most recently.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage you to go to the blog. It's lifeafterkids.com/blog, or you can just go to lifeafterkids.com and you'll find the tab. But I did a lot of writing about it in that season leading up to senior year and through the summer and even after. That
Which
was
is
kind of
another
my
great
way
way
of
for you to
processing.
process.
So also, by the way, ladies, if you're high in communication or you like to write journaling or just writing for the sake of, like that's a great way to process all that.
Yep.
So I would encourage you to go and look at that. I also did an article there about if you're looking for more strategic, like what do I need to buy or what do I have to do or how do I prep my child, that's there too. And we didn't get to all that stuff, which is fine. But I will say that I also made a list on our Amazon shop
Great.
for college kids and things that they would need just
Awesome.
from like little things you might not think about that were and maybe not as in for me like a water filter, the best water filter that I could find for a decent amount of money that was a step up from a Brita because Brita's not pulling some of the garbage out that needs to be taken out.
Yeah.
Purifiers, if you're just like all those sorts of things that not just the average like storage containers, because that you can find anywhere, but some specific things for especially keeping your child as healthy as possible when they go away.
Kind of chemical free.
So yeah, so I don't think we need to take this. That could be a whole nother podcast episode, but go to our Amazon shop. I'll link that particular shopping list so you can get to it easily, because now is the time where you're probably starting to buy or have already bought whatever, but planning that list and what you're taking with you.
That for me.
What? Oh, it's all ready for you. Do you know that somebody told? Never mind. I can't tell. I have to tell you this now.
You know how I.
And I actually, okay, when we're gonna end. Sorry, ladies, this is running a little over. But somebody said this. So we're moving, and I went to where the people buying the house bought our furniture. Long story short, we had buy only things, including mattresses. So I went to the mattress store, and this woman, the woman at the mattress store, was saying, "Yeah, these people are coming in. Parents start to come in, and they're buying mattresses from us for their kids that are going to like MIT and BU and because they don't want their kids sleeping on the mattress that the dorm provides. They want them on an organic mattress." And I was like, "Get out. They're buying organic. I mean, I buy organic mattresses for my home and my family thinks I'm nuts, but there are mothers, parents who are buying them to take to school, which I didn't even know you could. I didn't know you could switch the mattress out. But anyway, although I did see that once on the Gilmore Girls. But anyway, my point is, she then went on to say, when I was like baffled by that, she goes, "Oh yeah, it gets better." She's like, "Do you know that moms hire interior designers for their child's dorm room?" And I actually said, and now I did what I said I wasn't going to. I said, "I am absolutely never telling my best friend that, because her daughter will be all over that."
Mom, let's do that. I think she would actually she's
she likes it enough on her own. She'll want to do it herself. Anyway, we all handle it differently is the point, and we all pack differently and whatever. So check out all the things we did.
Seed.
Yes. Anyway, ladies, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We've got the private Facebook group going. Now is a really good time for you to, if you have not yet, now is the time for you to think about joining the Life After Kid membership community, especially if you are launching a child out into the world, whether that be college or out on their own or whatever it is. You need support, you need connection. That is the place for it. We're all like-minded women, and we're all in this season of life. So think about that. And that's go.lifeafterkids.com /community. So you can find all the information for that there. And otherwise, I'm going to stop talking because my mouth's getting tired for maybe the first time in my life.
That was great. Thank you for all your stories and just sharing so personally. And ladies, go create and feel all the feelings, but just take it one day at a time.
Ride the wave and enjoy every second of summer with your kiddos.
Love it.